morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, May 16th, 2018. I am Dave Biddle, very happy to be joined by Steve Helwagen. Steve, Urban Meyer made a very interesting comment at the Pro Football Hall of Fame luncheon on Monday, and I'm not talking about the part where he said Dwayne Haskins is the starting quarterback. We all knew that was the case when Joe Burrow decided to transfer. But the interesting comment was, quote, Dwayne Haskins being the starting quarterback will change the way we attack defenses. And Urban's never said anything like that before because they've been so reliant on the zone read, and they're still going to use some zone read. I get that, but looks like we're going to see a different type of offense this year, that coming from the horse's mouth himself.
Yeah, I think that, I believe, or I guess in the hope of many fans, that this will open things up for Ohio State. I think it's interesting because you have two guys at the running back position who are each capable of rushing for 1,000 yards. So while you may think and believe it's going to change everything dramatically, and it really could, because you also have a number of receivers who can play, I just think that there's still a reason or a need to rely on the running game as well. But I think I'm excited to see where this goes with Dwayne. I think I want to go back and watch how he did in the second half of that Michigan game just to see as an idea of what his skill set is and what is capable against a top-notch defense. I think that's what's going to be interesting is when you're playing the better defenses on your schedule, what are the ways that you're going to try and accentuate his skills and move the ball down the field. So I think it could be a new frontier for Urban Meyer. I don't know that has he ever had a guy that's really been this great of a passer. I don't know that he really has. So I think, I think we're excited to see what direction this goes.
Yeah, I would compare it a little bit to the 2014 postseason. Not that I don't think Cardale has the accuracy or a lot of the things that Haskins brings to the table, but Cardale had that howitzer of an arm, still does, and he made throws against Alabama that I don't think J.T. Barrett could have made. That's what I compare it to the most. Not that they're the same type of quarterback, but that's the closest parallel I can draw. And we did see Ohio State go away from the zone read in that 2014 postseason. Again, they mixed it in there some, but usually Cardale knew before the snap if he was handing the ball off to Zeke or he was keeping it himself. There wasn't a lot of deciding after the snap. And I think if that's the blueprint, it worked out pretty damn well for the Buckeyes in the 2014 postseason. And I think a lot of Ohio State fans are hoping we see the same thing. And I think we might, Steve. I think we're going to see something similar to that 2014 postseason. Just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think you make a great point there because, as time recalls this, Ezekiel Elliott rushed for over 200 yards against Wisconsin, against Alabama, and against Oregon, all three games, as I recollect. And, he was a machine, and one fed off the other. And here's the other thing. They were behind Alabama 21-6 to start the game. People have conveniently forgotten that over time with the way that they throttled them in the second half. But Cardale had to make some throws, and he did. So I think that is what's interesting as you translate this in to what Dwayne Haskins is capable of doing. I think what it becomes is a confidence factor for the coaches. If he does well against Oregon State and he does well against Rutgers, that would be great. And then you step into the third week against TCU, which should have a very good defense. I'm not sure how great their offense is going to be this year, but the TCU, Gary Patterson, have been known in Big 12 for having perhaps the best defense in the conference. And not that it's a great defensive conference, but they've kind of stood out in that regard. So I think that's what's got to be built, is that confidence that he can attack a good defense. And when they get into Big Ten play, obviously, you're looking at the three teams in the division that are all top 15 teams, Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, and you've got to hope that he's got what it takes to attack those defenses as well.
I'm very bullish about Haskins. I know a lot of people are. I'm bearish on the Buckeye linebackers. I think that's clearly the biggest concern on the team, and maybe they have a ton of talent in the group. I get that. I mean, there's some young future studs in there. Maybe future will be 2018. We all got to hope. But As we look at it right now, Steve, I mean, is there any debate in your mind that the linebacking core is the biggest concern on this football team?
I think it's right there at the top of the list. About the only other thing I can really think about is that safety position. That Mike Weber run in the spring game still kind of haunts me because people took bad angles, and man, have we seen that over the years at different times, and you don't want to see that. But the other thing would be the offensive line with a new center and a new left tackle, the two most vital positions on the offensive line are brand new players who've hardly played at all. So, I want to see if Thayer Munford is the left tackle. I guess we'll have to wait and see on that if it's either he or Isaiah Prince. But, getting back to the linebackers, I agree with you. I think that has, as a unit, got to be the most troubling situation on the team. Tough Borland with the Achilles. You and I have a common friend who played this game for a very long time, and I'm sure he's told you because he told me in no uncertain terms there's no way you come back from an Achilles in under 8 or 10 months. And
right.
I think it's going to be questionable whether or not Tough Borland is going to be there at the beginning of the season. That puts Baron Browning or Justin Hilliard in the firing line at middle linebacker. And really, I go back to the beginning of the 2014 National Championship season, Darren Lee and Josh Perry, the first game against Navy, some things were a little shaky at times. But by mid-season, they had really picked it up and were actually changing games with the way that they were playing, forcing turnovers, making negative plays, and that's what we need to see out of Keandre Jones and Malik Harrison. They're the two guys who are going to be on the outside, it seems like. So, again, they're upperclassmen now. They're juniors, and it's time, for them to deliver and play like they're capable. You need the middle linebacker to be stout against the run and to get off blocks and make plays. And really, until you see that, as we said, in the first couple of weeks of the season, Oregon State and Rutgers, it's an unknown. It's a terrific, or a tremendous piece of discussion that will the linebackers be up to snuff in 2018?
I want to close the show just talking about Ohio State's 2018 schedule, and we're not going to go game by game. We'll maybe do a deeper dive on that, just do a separate show going game by game. But just from a general perspective, I look at schedules. I look at, we know that they're going to play the other 6 teams in the East. So it comes down to, non-conference games and then crossover games. So non-conference, obviously, Oregon State to kick off the season at the Horseshoe, and then a couple weeks after that, TCU, and then the new home away from home. Now, we can call Phoenix the home away from home, but the new home away from home, Jerry World against TCU, that'll be interesting. Following week, Tulane coming to the Horseshoe, and before the TCU game, there is the Rutgers game, the Big Ten opener. But then the crossover games, that's interesting. They play them pretty much in succession. There's a bye week mixed in, but Minnesota at home, at Purdue, and Nebraska at home. Again, the bye week is right before Nebraska. Those are the crossover games. So I look at this schedule, Steve. They do have to go at Penn State. 5th week of the season, that's never easy, obviously, going to that whiteout situation, but late September. Overall, I think the schedule, it's not easy, but it's not daunting either. It's kind of right in the middle, in my opinion. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it is. I think TCU is somewhat of a brand name. The projections I've seen have had them in the top 15 or 20 going into the season, and, of course, another week or two we'll have all the different magazines will be out on the newsstands, usually around Memorial Day, and that's when you start to really kind of look toward the new season and really kind of fit in there with where teams are going to be or where you think they're going to be. I think consistently, and I'll get my little shot in, Michigan's been the most overrated team in college football really the last 20 years. I think out of those 20 years, I know that with Hope they won that Sugar Bowl, I think, with Hope. They beat Virginia Tech, and that may be the only time in the last 15 or 20 years that Michigan has finished the season ranked higher than they were in the preseason. But at any rate, we'll not kick them while they're down. But yeah, I think TCU is going to be a tough one just because it's in Texas. They have the potential to blow out Oregon State, which has a new coach, Jonathan Smith, who people will remember. He was the quarterback at Oregon State when they beat Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl about, I was going to say 2001, something like that. And I think your guys were on that team, Hushmanzada and the other guy,
Chad Johnson,
Ocho Cienko or whatever, Bobo Chinko or whatever they called him. So
Ocho Cinco, Chad Johnson, yes sir.
Ocho Drapo. So at any rate, I think they have the potential to blow that team out in Rutgers. And you mentioned, can they go into TCU? They have to go down there and play their best game, or they could lose that game. And I think that is within the cards, certainly, but I feel good about it. And then, as you mentioned, you come back, Tulane, Penn State is going to be a toughie, obviously. Those crossover games, Minnesota really wants to have a restart with P.J. Fleck. And, they didn't make it to a bowl, whereas they did the year before with Tracy Clay. So I think that they want to restart their season. What Purdue did in 1 year under Brom was nothing short of sensational for them. And then, of course, Nebraska with Scott Frost is going to have a new look as well. So those are not easy games by any stretch of the imagination, but I think they're winnable games, definitely. And then you get back into division play for the last month, which I think I like the way the Big Ten is stacking this up. You play a couple division games early, and then the 3 out of division, and then back in where the meaningful games at the end of the season really decide where you're going to be. So I'm excited to see how it goes. And, some tough road games at Michigan State. Ohio State rubbed it in their face last year, 48-3. But D'Antonio's not going to sit still for that. And obviously Michigan burning with every ounce of their being to finally break through and beat Ohio State. Will this be the year? Probably not at the Horseshoe.
Only 3.5 months till the other OSU comes to town for the season opener, Oregon State, Saturday, September 1st. Can't wait for that. Just a short 3.5 months. That's all. Great stuff from Steve Helwagen, as always. It will be, but here before we know, we're going to enjoy our summers, though, as much as possible. Great stuff, as always, from Steve Helwagen, and I really appreciate it, Steve, and I appreciate all the listeners out there for tuning in to the show. Hope you have a great day. Let's hear that Buckeye swag, best in band in the land.